Good morning, good afternoon, and good day wherever you may be joining us from. Welcome to another edition of the Digital Download. Not even which is
the
longest running weekly business talk show on LinkedIn Live. Now globally syndicated on the IPGN radio network. Excellent, thank you.
And is there an exclamation mark at the end of that as well?
There is. Thank you for adding that for our audio-only audience. Now they know. Today, we are unlocking creativity and communication in business. We have a special guest, Kathy Klotzgast, to help us with the discussion. Her background started as a unique blend of tech and humor. It was tech by day, improv, sketch, and stand-up comedy at night. Now an expert in blending humor with business acumen, Kathy wears many hats as a keynote speaker, workshop leader, podcast host, and the author of Stop Boring Me. And yes, Will, there is an exclamation point at the end of that too. Before we bring Kathy on, let's go around the set and introduce everyone. While we're doing that, why don't you in the audience reach out to a friend, ping them, and have them join us? We strive to make the digital download an interactive experience. Audience participation is highly encouraged. Right. So with that, Adam, would you kick us off, please?
Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending on where you are, of course. I'm Adam Gray, co-founder of DLA Ignite, and audience participation is not encouraged, it's mandatory.
There we go. Awesome. Thank you for that. William, long time no see, my friend. Please take a moment and introduce yourself.
Hi, Rob. Hi, everybody. Yeah, real joy to be back after quite a extended period of leave. My name is William Shorten. I'm proud to be an associate with DLA Ignite. And aside from that, I'm also a coach, trainer, and facilitator. So lovely to be here with you all today.
Welcome back, Will. Tim.
Thank you, Will. It's great to see you again. It's been a long time, and it's good to have you. Just to explain who I am, I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm famous for writing the book Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And myself, I am Rob Durant, founder of Flywheel Results, a proud DLA Ignite partner. We help startups scale. And I'm not famous for writing anything. Yet. All right. As I said, this week on the Digital Download, we'll speak with Kathy Klotzgast. Her journey from leading tech and product marketing teams to performing comedy illuminates the power of laughter in building trust, connection, and a culture of courage. Let's bring her on. Kathy, good morning and welcome.
Happy International Women's Day.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We get one whole day, guys.
Yeah, make the best of it because, this is it.
What time is it for you, Kathy?
It is ungodly. It is, I think, 5 past. Holy crap, I'm up. I think it's 6:05.
Okay, that sounds about right. Yeah. AM.
Yeah, AM. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for your commitment.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Kathy, let's start by having you tell us a little bit more about you and how you got here.
Yeah. It's interesting. Probably like a lot of people's journeys, there was some serendipity and some, providence, and it's a lot of mix of a lot of things. I knew right after college that I would be doing comedy in some way, shape, or form. So I sort of had this like split life where like I work in tech during the day, and then at night I'd strip off all the tech, we have to, and especially for women, we have to show up differently because it's very male dominated space, kind of like today.
Yes.
And I had to, present a little differently. And then I would go on a stage and I had a very different experience, and I just loved it, fell in love with it, and then did this for many, many years. And over time, it's really interesting, Rob. I started thinking, this is really transformational. I knew it would be. I just didn't know. Like, originally I went into comedy because I was like, I want to make people laugh, and I love to make people laugh, and I love to laugh. What I underestimated was the amount of transformation for me and for people around me, and how it changed the way that I looked at the world and my courage and all these other things that I really didn't. They were just beautiful surprises that came out of it. And I thought, how do I take this stuff? Like, why is it we can show up in this context on a comedy stage and have so much fun, all of us, and we can laugh and just have a great time. And then we go back into corporate and we're all just like all of a sudden it's like we're masked up again. And it's like, I just saw Bob like blowing like milk bubbles out of his nose. What is he even saying with all that jargon? Who is this guy? And we all did it. And I think it got me thinking, and it changed the trajectory of my life. This one question, I'm so fundamentally curious about courage and creativity and communication, and how we show up differently, and what are the tools that we can take from the comedy stage and bring into our everyday life, whether it's corporate or whatever. And it's sort of, over time, I realized after, being in tech for almost two decades, I'm doing comedy at night, and, going through sketch writing and improv and stand-up. And I went, this is silly. I should just merge the two. So I eventually did. But it's interesting. It put me on a journey and a path of really discovery and curiosity. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start with a foundational question.
Mm-hmm.
How can humor and playfulness be incorporated into more traditional or conservative corporate cultures without disrupting professionalism?
Well, and I think this whole myth, right? There's this myth that like humor is unprofessional, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I say it with that level of reverence, because that's exactly the level of reverence that it deserves. Meanwhile, the things that disrupt professionalism are, I don't know, racism, sexism, corruption, greed, disrespect. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that are not professional and hurt people. Humor's pretty low on that list. And most people never offend. Most people never cross that line. Truly, I think there's a lot of fear for no reason. And I want people to remember that it's very simple. What we get wrong fundamentally about humor is we think humor is the person standing with the microphone, and we think stand-up, and we think jokes. The average person, if I say humor to you, you think jokes. But humor is so much more than jokes. Humor is showing up imperfect. Humor is being able to experiment and try and fail and laugh and grow. Humor is accepting other people's imperfection and creating a safe space for us to try stuff. And all of that sounds a lot like innovation, doesn't it? Because it's exactly what comedy and humor is. It's the ability to try and fail and innovate and grow. And playfulness is really that exact thing that we want. We say we want creativity. We say we want innovation. And yet, as many times as we say it, people don't innovate because they're scared. They're scared that if I fail, I'm going to hear about it from 20 different people, and I'm never going to live it down, and I'm going to be judged by my boss, my coworkers, my coworker's dog. I'm going to hear about it in the company newsletter. I'm going to hear about, and they'll never live it down. And honestly, the very thing that we need is a mindset, a growth mindset, and play and humor really truly are at their core about a growth mindset.
Wow.
So I'm curious with if I can just jump in, Rob. Kathy, fantastic opening there. So how do you use this? If you're going into an organization, you're going to run a workshop or something, what's the offer? What's your kind of starting point with them?
The starting point really is about, I think, dismantling all the barriers to creativity, and usually it's fear and safety and psychological safety. And the starting point really is getting them out of their headspace, shifting their mindset. Really, first gear is mindset. We can't get to fifth gear until we change the mindset. And then number two, I would say it's really having them think differently about psychological safety. So we do a lot of play, but it takes a little bit of work, culture work, and mindset work, so that everybody goes, oh, I can play now. It's okay to play. And the thing that we have to work on is that this is not a temporary fix. This is not something where we're going to come here and we're going to play. Then you're going to be released back into incarceration, corporate incarceration, where everybody's like, I'm too afraid to take a risk. So we have to start thinking about little ways that we can start to make those changes. Because we can't all of a sudden go from, barely getting a permit to driving on the Autobahn. And it doesn't work like that. We're going to have to ease people in. And so the offer really is let's create small, safe ways that people can play. And here's the key. How do we integrate it into work? I'll say it again. If we're thinking that play is this whole other thing and humor is this whole other thing, I think we're missing creative ways to restructure work. So work can be all of us improvising and coming up with new ideas in a brainstorm meeting. Every meeting can have play elements. Every innovation endeavor that we do as a company can have milestones where we introduce concepts to the team and the team plays with us and gives us feedback. There's so many ways to introduce the concept of play into work, so that play and humor and laughter and all that stuff isn't seen as separate. And if it's consistent over time, laughter is a signal of trust. And I can tell you, when I walk into a company within less than 5 minutes, exactly how the leaders are perceived. Because a culture that has no laughter or nervous laughter is a culture in crisis. And I don't care what the window dressing is. I was in tech and I know what that looks like. And so it really comes down to, can people laugh? Can they make mistakes? Do they feel free to innovate to some degree? So I think it's really such a great question, because it's so expansive, and it really starts with finding comfortable ways to stretch them, to think differently about it, and to start the journey of integrating humor and levity and improv and play into work. It's not separate, into the way that they work and show up.
What I'm hearing there is, first of all, there's a kind of permission.
Yes.
That this is acceptable, and this
Yes.
is something that, actually we're going to actively encourage.
Yes.
And then there's something about kind of these micro habits about
Yes.
how you can build that. So again, I'm just interested, habit forming is one of those really hard things to do. And as you say, people will come along to a workshop or have some training. It's a little bit like a sheep dip, for the hour, a couple of hours they're there. Perhaps for a day afterwards, it stays with them. And then afterwards, it kind of can dissipate. So, what's your kind of guidance about how they can actively build on that?
Yeah, I work with companies over a long haul. I don't do it one and done. I don't do one and done, because that's never going to stick. You're absolutely right. So the way to think about it is, it's sort of threefold. We've got to think about that mindset shift, a culture shift, and we have to create in the culture the messages, and the social proof. So if I say play is important or humor is important and we laugh a lot, and I never see the leaders laugh, I go, you're not eating your own dog food. So we have to start to look for ways that we start to show up. What are the messages we're sending? Where's the social proof? Give me examples of where the team has failed or tried something new, or they've innovated on social media, or they innovated internally. And how did that go? And maybe they failed. Great. What did they learn from it? Let's start to seed examples. The biggest example is going to be, honestly, the biggest social proof is going to be, oh yeah, permission. Tell me a time when people failed and they lived to tell about it. And if you don't have that social proof as a leader or as a culture, you're kind of DOA with that messaging. Now, look, we all know, like, you cannot turn a tanker around on a dime. It takes time. So you have to start to think about social proof. And that means giving permission, starting to make it so ingrained that people's accountability and their job includes that, and make sure that they know that experimentation, to some degree, explain the boundaries, is part of their job. It's part of their job. So you have to start collecting social proof. You have to start putting it into their jobs. You have to start messaging all the time. And leaders, you're going to have to show up imperfect, make mistakes, and model that behavior. It just can't be the one and done. And it does take time. But those are the types of signals that are going to start to give permission. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely wonderful. But I'm so in our company, Will is really funny and I'm not really funny. So Will has said, thank you. So Will has set a really high bar for appropriate humour in the workplace, and I find this really stressful because this is just another technique skill that I need to learn and start to deploy. And Tim is the chief executive, and my concern is that he'll think that the company's turning into like an open mic night at a comedy club. And I'm being deliberately provocative when I say this, but
I did stand up. I know, like some open mics are the open mics of the open mics. Yes, I got you.
Yeah, and sometimes you work with somebody and they are just naturally funny. Every time they open their mouth, their sense of humor comes through, and you can't help but giggle at this. And other people are not funny people.
Right. And that's very true.
So how do we manage that in the workplace?
It
doesn't become a prerequisite.
No. You're conflating funny and humor, and this is a common misconception. You are conflating the two, and that is not the case. So I'm gonna let you off the hook, Adam.
Thank you.
Don't.
And I say this with love. Not everybody is funny. I mean, it's funny because people will call me and they're like, can you make me funny? I'm like, no. I can't give you what God didn't. I'm sorry. God doesn't give with both hands. I'm sorry. And I can't do that for you. What I can do is make you funnier by getting out of your own head. And here's what I mean by it, because it's such a brilliant question, Adam. And you're speaking on behalf, you're the voice of a lot of listeners. And so I appreciate the question because a lot of people are thinking it. So it's a brilliant question. You're absolutely right. I think it's a common false narrative that humor means funny. Funny is I'm intentionally trying to make you laugh. Now, when I step on a comedy stage, a stand-up stage, and I'm hosting a show tonight, it is my job as the host to make people laugh and move everything along. That is my job. But in business as a leader, funny buys you a little bit of charisma, but funny is not what your people need. I'm going to say it again. Funny alone, it will not buy loyalty. What people want from you is humor, and humor is embracing your playfulness and your imperfection. You do not have to be a comedian. You do not have to, be great at jokes. Some people really stink at jokes. And, the thing about it is, if you're not good at it, great. Don't do it. You don't have to. Some people are just naturally great storytellers, or some people have really great facial expressions. Some people are really good at like props and just in the moment, that observational wit. They don't say much at all, but every once in a while when they do say something, it's hilarious. Here's the thing. Humor in business isn't about trying to be funny. Humor in business is giving yourself permission to be human and imperfect. One of the things I'm just going to bring in, half of you are across the pond. So I'm going to bring in, look, this is not a political message. If you watched Biden last night give his State of the Union address, he made a lot of mistakes, but he laughed at himself. And how endearing is that? I love a person that can make a mistake and then acknowledge it and laugh. And that's what your people want. They want to see that you're human, that you're accessible, that you get that you're imperfect, and that you're giving them permission to be imperfect. So rest easy, Adam. And I love your question because it is so genuine on behalf of so many listeners. You don't have to. If that's not your thing, it's okay. But I bet you, Adam, you're naturally humorous in your own way. And that's brilliant.
Unintentionally.
But that's the best. That's the best. I will take somebody who's unintentionally humorous in business than the leader that's trying way too hard love me, validate me, please, please, please. You know, that's like needy. That's so needy. No. Because what your people want is to trust you. They want to trust you. And you don't have to be rip-roaringly to build trust. So humor and play are just what is natural for you. That's genuine. Yeah. Yeah.
Kathy, one of the things that you mentioned early on was productivity and innovation.
Yeah.
So, can you measure the impact of incorporating humor and improv techniques on team productivity and innovation outputs?
Absolutely, you can. You can. I've worked with teams where, you know, the benchmarks are kind of, I mean, they're both quantitative and qualitative. So shout out to all the like metric nerds. Hey, sometimes they're qualitative. Like, for example, beforehand, you know, we know that things aren't getting done. And usually I'll say this, 99% of the time, your team is not the problem. I'm going to say it again. 99% of the time, it's not the team's fault. They are creative. There's something, they're afraid, they're confused, maybe they're unclear as to how they're being measured. There's something else going on. And what we found is that after introducing techniques like, you know, yes and basic, you know, brainstorming and creativity techniques, what we find is communication goes up, output goes up. They come up with a pipeline of better ideas. They have more clarity in how they talk to each other. They are not shutting each other down. They're actually listening to each other. So they're allowing people to be heard. And when people are heard, they come up with more ideas. So whether it's a pipeline of ideas where it's ideas that are actually scheduled to be tried and tested, yeah, we see that communication and creativity pipeline expand. Yep. And improv isn't not, again, improv's not about being theatrical. It's not about, I'm not asking you to do bad improv, like level 101 improv, where you invite your friends and they're like, no, thanks.
That's what we were hoping you were going to get us to be doing this afternoon.
Oh, no, we are going to do improv.
Well, we might do some.
We are going to do improv. No, I'm going to have you do improv. There's just a difference between forced improv on a team where like, we're going to do forced improv. That's not what it is. It's not about theatricality. It's about listening to each other and disrupting old patterns. And when we use improv tools to increase better communication and have more fun, people feel safer to give more ideas. And it completely changes sort of the tone of the group. And that's what we're talking about with improv. Yeah, safety. It's really safety and trust. Yeah.
And how can organizations ensure that their attempts at humor are both inclusive and respectful?
Yes. And here's the thing. Most people, Rob, never cross that boundary in my experience. So a lot of as I've said before, and I'll say it again, it'll be etched on my epitaph. She said it was okay. Most people never cross that line. The false narrative is I won't be taken seriously if I laugh a lot. But the research is very clear. First of all, before I give you the how, the research is very clear. Leaders who take themselves too seriously take a trust hit. I'm going to say it again. The leader that never laughs, never gives permission for the team to lighten up, is not taken seriously. Laughter and humor are related to trust. They're related to trust. And it's really a measure of, can I lower my shield and be seen by this leader? And that's what laughter is. Laughter is a cheat code to trust, my friends. It's a cheat code to trust. So the how-to is really actually quite simple. And the reason I keep it simple is intentional, because I think we overcomplicate it, Rob. We dress it up and we think of 20 things that can go wrong, right? But the reality is very simple. Is my laughter or my humor about a universal human experience? Is it about my experience? So I'm speaking for me, not for somebody else. Am I speaking for me or about a universal? And if I'm doing that, I'm probably 99% of the time going to lift people up, what we call affiliative humor. Affiliative humor is improv because everybody participates and everybody feels included. The litmus test is it lifting people up, or is my joke or my comedy or my improv or my humor, whatever X insert, is my humor at the expense of a person or a group? The litmus test is my humor at the expense of a person or a group. And if you feel strongly that it is, then don't do it. Very simple. Start with your own experience. I mean, I can tell you all day what it's like to be a woman in tech. I mean, it's International Women's Day. It's International Women's Day. You know, I can tell you, so I worked in tech for, almost 2 decades, very male-dominated space. The last company that I worked for had a fun little tradition where all the groups got names. The IT guys, they were the it bros. The accountants, they were the dough bros. And I got really excited because they came up with a name for the women in my division. Kathy and Brenda. Yeah. Yeah, which is a lot like stand-up sometimes. Exactly. Now, nobody's being hurt. I'm telling you what my experience is to be a woman in the world. There's no blame, there's no shame. I'm just laughing. That's affiliative humor, which people recognize the universal truth in that. And even men, when I say that joke, laugh because men in tech know. So that's a unifier. Now, if I were to, do a joke that, put the blame on a person or a group of people, or blamed people, then that's punching down, or that's at the expense of a group. So just remember that if I'm really concentrating on our human experience, what it's like to be a parent, what it's like to work a 9 to 5 or 9 to 9. I mean, who works a 9 to 5 anymore? Nobody. What it's like to be stuck in traffic, what it's like to work remotely, hybrid work. What even is hybrid work anymore? Those are universals. It gets very weird when a group or a person starts to comment on a common experience for a group. So be very careful about, again, that line. Is it at the expense of a person or group? And if it's not, you're good.
So if my humour can't be at the expense of an individual or a group, basically I've got nothing now.
You need to shut up.
Then I would say y'all need to take some classes. and no offense, but you probably should shut up. And that's the thing that I'll laugh at this, and I want to do improv with y'all. But here's the thing. That's the thing that I cannot emphasize enough. And you've all heard this, and I'm going to call BS on it. There's the people that are like, well, I guess I can't be funny anymore because the humor police just have shut me down. And then I feel like going, biatch, you ain't funny. You never were. And I'm going to say it because here's the thing. If your humor has to punch down on a group of marginalized people or a person, that's not funny. The question is, who has the power? So if you're in management and you're laughing at the one woman in the group, or the people of color in a group, or maybe the LGBTQ folks who are already marginalized, that is what we call punching down, and that is abusive. It's not funny. That's when you cross the line. So humor has everything to do, and being funny and jokes have everything to do with self-awareness. Who has the power? Who is not represented? I can't speak for their experience. As a white woman, I can't speak for the collective experience of women of color. I can't do that. And it's self-awareness to know that there are some things that I can say and laugh at, and some things I can't. So again, the real litmus test, Rob, is such a beautiful question. Thank you. Is stay on the right side of that, which is universal experience. Look, I mean, you start talking about running a business, everybody will laugh. You start talking about what it's like to be a corporate cog in a machine, everybody's going to laugh. If you start talking about what it's like to work hybrid, I mean, everyone's going to laugh because everyone's like, what's going on? What is even happening? Everyone's going to laugh. If you're in HR and you make fun of HR people, well, you're making fun of a collective experience of HR people. So it's okay. That's all right. That's the stuff that I think is safe. And universal experiences always work. So that's kind of the long way to answer it. But I really want to disabuse us of this notion of if people are telling you you're not funny because you're punching down, then yeah, you have a problem. You have a problem.
It's really interesting you should say that, Kathy, because I've been doing some work. One of the things I do is do debriefs on profiling tools, and there's one around emotional intelligence that I've been working on at the moment. And, you know, the underpinning of emotional intelligence, you go back to your Daniel Goleman or whatever, is regard for self, regard for others, awareness of self and awareness of others. And I think what you've just said there just kind of highlights that importance around kind of taking an emotionally intelligent approach to it.
There is a correlation between humor and emotional intelligence in leaders and in anybody. Humor is a marker for emotional intelligence because, to your point, it requires a huge amount of emotional intelligence and it requires self-awareness and the ability to read a room. Yeah.
So as we're talking about boundaries,
yes,
can humor and improv help in managing and resolving conflicts within teams, or should we avoid humor where there's conflict?
I think it's a little bit tricky, but I say we don't need to avoid it. And here's the trick: it's self-awareness, which means let's build the we. Let's build the we. I think the mistake thinking that humor can't be part of the conversation. I think that's a mistake to think that. But let me give you an example. So I led tech teams for many years, as you know, and I had, I would always start out tricky conversations where I felt awkward by acknowledging the mutual awkwardness. Because if I felt awkward as a leader having this conversation, I bet the person on the other side of this conversation felt equally awkward. And so acknowledging builds the we. Rob, I would say something like, one thing I would do is I would say, look, I know we have to have this uncomfortable conversation. So before we get started, can I get you anything? Can I get you some coffee, some water, a running start for the exits? What would you like to do? And that would always be met with a laugh. And what I really was saying is, look, I know this is awkward. I feel it too. So let's start from a real place of emotional self-awareness and safety. As I see you, it's uncomfortable. And just saying that level of truth and humor takes the walls down. It takes that walls down. So I do believe it belongs even in conflict, but the key is self-awareness and doing it right. And it is not me deciding or saying what the other person is feeling. It is owning how I feel. I'm going to say it again. Leaders, the way you start that is to be transparent about how you feel. Now I've given the other person permission to laugh and say how they feel. I cannot speak for them.
I think it's sometimes referred to. There's a coach, Richard Boisatis, who is over at one of the universities over there, and he talks about in terms of kind of coaching positive emotional activators.
Yeah.
So it's something around that positioning, as you say. You're checking in, you're being empathetic to the person that's across from you.
Yeah.
And by injecting a little bit of humor and that kind of positiveness, you're hopefully setting the right ground for that conversation to get off on the right foot.
Yes, absolutely. So it does belong. It absolutely, Rob, it's a great question because I think it's one that everyone's afraid of, but I want people to not fear it. What I want them to do is just think about it as, so well said, Will, this emotional intelligence that's available to us, but it just depends on us being willing as leaders. And Tim and I have talked about this before, being able to take down the vulnerability wall just a little bit, because I think part of why humor can come off as glib is because sometimes leaders are afraid to be vulnerable. And I can't go into a meeting with Rob and then say, I know, Rob, what you're thinking. And Rob's like, you don't know what I'm thinking. And he's right. He's right. And that puts people's defenses up. But if I own how I feel, now all of a sudden that person goes, okay, there's a little bit of a crack in the armor and I can see the humanity there. And I share that and it gives permission. So I encourage people to not be afraid of it, but just be smart about it. Again, self-awareness. Yeah.
In fact, I think it's a seesaw because it's vulnerability and authenticity.
Yes.
And in fact, they're either end of the scale, if you like.
They are. And, it's interesting because there's a large Robert Half that does all this executive recruitment. They did these studies and they found that one of the top 10 coveted skills in recruiting leaders was a sense of humor. And they checked for it. They checked for it in the interview process. And what they meant by that was not being the funniest person in the room, but are they self-aware? Do they know how they show up? Do they have a sense of themselves? And they look for that because they found that not only does that augur well for EQ, it also is a sign of emotional agility. That person is adaptable. That person understands that, being a leader is hard and crap's going to get thrown at them. And can they emotionally adapt in the moment? And so they found high success correlated between humor and great leadership.
You had briefly mentioned some techniques. Can you tell us a little bit more about the techniques that teams can implement?
Rob, can I just ask before?
Please.
Are we not getting any comments, or is that?
I am not seeing any comments come through.
It's probably, I know on my time it's early. People are still drinking coffee, so they're probably like,
Right, go ahead, Rob. So I think Rob wants us to do a bit of for you to talk about improv, Kathy, and the yes but or the yes and.
Yeah, do you guys want to play it? I think it's better to just demonstrate it. Let's enough talking.
Let's go for it.
Let's play. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I want us to. I'm gonna go round robin here. I'm gonna start a sentence. We're gonna be. What's a thing that you would plan for your company, everybody, or for your thing? What's something you would plan? I don't know, like a leadership summit. What's something you would plan?
A weekly call.
Weekly training.
A weekly training. Okay, so let's plan a weekly training. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start it off, and then I want one by one all of you to keep yes butting. Just keep yes butting whatever the person before you says. So I'll probably start with Rob, Tim, Will, Adam. We'll do that because that's how you appear on my screen. Rob, Tim, Will, Adam. And it's all about the customer centricity. So that's what I see. That's what we're doing. Rob, Tim, Will, Adam. All right, brilliant, fellas. Let's kick this off. So and you're gonna yes but me. That's the thing. All right. For the next summit, you know what I want us to do? I want us to actually kick off with like something fun. I want a dance party. Let's just get everybody up and dancing. Yeah.
Yeah, but Kathy, we want to make best use of our time. We want to have an agenda. We want to know what each person is responsible for. We want to make sure that at the end of this, something valuable comes out of it.
Yeah, yes, but Kathy, what happens if you can't dance?
Yes, Kathy, I think it's a really great idea, but Adam is really uncomfortable with things like that. So, I just don't think we should do it.
So Kathy, Adam actually had disco dancing lessons.
Oh, God, no, please.
I can tell.
The first time it's been mentioned here.
Sorry, can I refute? Can I go back? Yes, but Adam should be the only one who does it.
I was jokingly going to say yes, but you have me at dance. Yes, but I'm a little bit shy about such things.
Okay. One more time, and I want you to yes but the previous sentence. So you don't have to yes but me. You can yes but Rob or Tim or anybody. But let's try it one more time. We'll go around one more time. Okay. So how about then? Here's what we could do. I want us to bring in some Legos, and I want us to just play for a little bit, just to get out of our headspace and get into a fun mode.
Yes, but Kathy, I don't think Legos and toys are a part of the training that we're doing. I don't see how that's relevant.
Yeah, yes, but what Rob says is, it's a toy. We need to talk to health and safety because have you ever stepped on a Lego?
Yes, but Tim, that's just so negative. Can't you be the fun guy for once?
Well, mushroom.
Yes, but the problem is, Will, that when we throw caution to the winds, we end up in a terrible situation.
Okay. Now yes, but that won't work. It doesn't always come out as yes, but a lot of times it's very much, we kind of crap on each other's ideas without even realizing we're doing it. And again, I want to switch to a yes and. But here's the thing: yes and doesn't mean you have to do the idea, folks. We can talk about it. It just means like let's brainstorm. So let's try it now. Yes and. You have to yes and, or you don't have to use those words. The spirit of yes and is what I care about. So all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a clown. We're gonna do clown makeup. That's what we're gonna do for the next meeting.
Yes, and we could do silly hats too. I love a good silly hat.
Yes, and I love a silly hat. And what we could get is unicorns.
Yes, and being a clown, could we improvise on some of the tricks and jokes that they do as well?
Yes, and in fact, when Tim and I were on a business trip to Joplin, it was his birthday, and we did actually wear clown shoes.
We were in an office, and on
that's
your
a true
birthday,
story.
You could basically say, you could dictate a rule in the office. So I basically said it was my birthday, so I wanted everybody to wear clown shoes.
See, I love it. I knew you guys were hiding that playful side. But I love it. So let's talk about that. I love that. Look, yes, but isn't being robotic, and yes and isn't about parroting back yes and like a robot without thinking. It's not about that. It's the heart and soul of it. So it's just that we're going to build on each other's ideas, and I can give you a different example. But basically, you probably, I know it's silly. This is just for illustrative purposes, but you kind of sense that when we're yes butting, and I know this is sort of feels a little bit contrived, but you probably felt like, if you're yes butting, it becomes very hard to move a conversation forward. But yes, but is something that is our default setting in corporate. I don't know why. It just is our default setting. And how did yes and feel? I know it's contrived here for purposes of demonstration, but how did that feel compared to yes, but for some of you folks?
Well, it was much more positive. It was a much more can-do attitude.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think a lot of times in the corporate environment, you are, because there's such a stigma attached to being wrong and making mistakes,
Exactly.
what you want to be is the person that stops mistakes happening. Whereas the idea of having a true brainstorm, and we've all been in brainstorms many times, and the problem with a brainstorm is it's very difficult, and I'm saying this slightly tongue-in-cheek, it's very difficult not to decry a stupid idea from somebody.
It is. Yeah.
That's stupid, Adam.
Something about it being
by stupid, I meant not mine, obviously.
I'm a genius. You're a dum-dum. Yeah, exactly. The book's coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's much more collaborative and not so adversarial that I'm, one-upmanship.
Yeah.
And dismissive in a way.
Yeah, it's really the heart and soul of and again, there's many ways to slice it. We can do a couple more activities, but really, basically, yes and is the kind of thinking. I don't want you to be a yes and bot. I don't want you to force it, but tell me more. I like that idea. Okay, how might we, and just move it forward, because the but is what we do unintentionally. But I think the way that it shows up in conversation, even I think on autopilot for a lot of us, can really shut people down. And that's when a lot of people get stuck and they just stop contributing. And it's just a way of thinking about it. But you want to see what else improv training can do with emotional agility. It's how we show up, and whatever's thrown at us, we just integrate. So I want to try this exercise, and I'll demonstrate. You guys can throw me one at a time a word. I'm going to tell a story. And then after I start, one by one, give it a little space. I want you to just say one word, and I have to integrate that into my story. I have to not stop my story. I have to stay on track, but I got to integrate, because yes and is about integrating ideas, not kicking them out, but integrating what's happening. So I'm going to give you just a quick exercise on how developing these skills is really kind of emotional agility. So I'm going to tell a story one by one, just one word, and it'll make sense as we go. So you guys, I went to play soccer at this abandoned field, and I saw this dog, and this dog like started kicking the ball to me.
Satellite.
And then it was amazing because this dog kicked it all the way up to a satellite and like knocked that satellite down. It was amazing. And I knew
Bathtub.
Hmm?
Bathtub.
And then I knew that, okay, my dog, my new friend deserves a bath. He earned that treat. So I took him to take a bath, got it all sudsy. Turnip. And then I said, you know what? I know you love turnips and you've been such a good dog. I'm going to cut up the turnips. I'm going to feed it to you in the bathtub. Oh, he loved it.
Paperweight.
And then, well, I don't know. The turnips kept floating. So I went, you know what's going to work in this tub? Paperweights. We're going to put the paperweights on the turnips. The turnips are going to stay in the tub so my dog can just luxuriate. And then just keep adding, all kinds of delicious stuff. And any more stuff you want to throw at me? And I could keep going on and on and on. And it's about being able to, whatever's thrown at us, we're able to apply that. You guys want to play one more thing? Want to play another thing? So here's what I want us to do. I want us to, the power of integrating. All right, the power of integrating. Okay. I want you to come up really quickly with a passion. Something that just one thing that you're really, really, really passionate about. It could be sports. It could be, I don't know, sitting on your couch.
Family.
Music.
Bike riding.
Okay, so we're developing an app. We're developing an app together, and we have to integrate all these different ideas one by one. Yes. Okay, here's what we're doing. Okay, we don't have to do any of these ideas. We're just opening up the possibility, the play funnel. Okay, so we're going to develop an app. Okay, it's going to allow us to search for music by family, what we all like in our family. And it's going to tell us what everybody likes and what channels match the family. And then what are the other suggestions?
Bike
riding. And music.
And so it's going to give us those music channels by family. And here's the best part. It's going to pre-make lists. So when we're bike riding with our family, it's going to give us these bike trail songs so we can hit the trails, with full passionate speed. Woo! It's also going to give us a list for when we're driving, going on long drives. What other words did we have? Did we get everybody?
I didn't, but mine would have been music as well.
Music. Okay. Yeah. So we got the music, we got the bike riding, we got the family. So what improv allows us to do, and when we apply improv, is to playfully show up and acknowledge, pull in new ideas rather than kick them out, and change the way that we think. And it may seem small and it may seem easy, but it takes time for us to sort of work these muscles. But what we're really doing here is we are expanding the possibilities. If I just say, well, I'm sorry, we're not going to talk about music or bike riding or any of these things, then I'm really limiting my options, my creative options. If I start to say, well, you know what, Rob's got his likes, and Tim and Will and Adam all have their passions. What if we created a way to integrate all these different ideas? Doesn't mean we're going to build them all, but we've just expanded the funnel of possibilities and ideas in teams. And this little way that we, a playlist for hiking. Yeah, absolutely. See, your trail mix. I love it. Does it have some M&Ms in there? And it's got M&Ms in there. Yeah,
M&Ms. For people that are listening on the radio, Mark is our resident comedian, and he's just put the comment, I made a playlist for hiking. It has music from Peanuts, the Cranberries, and NMM, and I call it my trail mix.
That's perfect. That's perfect. But I'm pumped. It's perfect.
They didn't have Tarzan Boy for Mark, which he usually references.
Tarzan Boy. That's a good one too. It's an old school callback. Like I want my 80s jams. Right? I want my big hair playlist. I want my glam rock big hair playlist. I love it. And it's just a little way to apply improv thinking. Again, I'm not asking people in a company to perform or be theatrical. I'm simply applying different ways of thinking, expansive, that show up for us, that allow us to integrate, to be agile in the moment, to add ideas when they're thrown at us, and to see opportunities as a way to expand ideas versus contract ideas. Now, again, if you're going to build stuff, there is going to be that place in the funnel, as Adam said, that you're going to want to stop those bad ideas. Not every idea is going to be, worthy. However, you have to recognize that at the opening part of the creative funnel, we're trying to get people to give their best ideas, not shut down. So part of it is just changing the risk-taking level in the group. And that means making sure people know that while we may not use all ideas, we want everybody to open up and give their best and not withhold those ideas. Yeah.
I really like that, Kathy. I mean, it reminds me of an approach I kind of saw on a Coursera program about design thinking, and they broke it down into 4 kind of steps, which is first of all, what exists. Then it talks about what if, what wows, so what could be the best thing, and then what are we going to put in place. And it's that kind of iterative process where you're giving everybody an opportunity to speak and to be as creative as possible.
Absolutely, it's inclusive. The only rules, if you will, in improv are yes and mindset, which is there's no judgment. There's no that's a bad idea. There's no yes butting. There's no wrong. There's going to be a place for judging the funnel of ideas later. It's really about building safety, because once we get rid of the blame or the shame or the you're wrong or the judgment, once we take that out, the design thinking can happen. We can have these great ideas. And also, too, you probably noticed that the ideas will get increasingly sillier. This is a good thing. Doesn't mean you're going to make those ideas. Here's the thing. When people start laughing and coming up with naturally humorous ideas, it means that they start to feel a level of safety. So as humor goes up in the group, it is a direct result of feeling safer. So when you do this as cold boot, people are like, what is going on? It's going to take them a minute to warm up. When people realize, oh my God, I can say something and not get judged. Once they realize it, the ideas get crazier and funnier and sillier. That is actually a good thing, because that is a high correlation with safety and productivity and being able to, right before, kind of create breakthroughs. So look for that. If people aren't warming up and having fun, they're censoring themselves. And that's still because there's trust issues. So it's going to take a little bit of time, and just be patient with it. And it's really radically important that you stick to the no judgment rule. Not at that point. Just don't judge. Yeah.
Kathy, this has been great. Where can people learn more about this? Where can people connect with you?
Sure. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, because that's a party, because the fun never goes to die there. LinkedIn, putting the FU in fun, since whatever. Okay, no, but I'm going to change that. And I think we can all change that. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. You can message me, at keepingithuman.com. I got books and all kinds of shiz you can see. But yeah, feel free to connect with me.
Our audio listeners, they can't see. Tell us what that is.
Let me insert a little caption. Kathy is goofily pointing at her own books in a very.
What's the name of your book, Kathy?
Stop Boring Me.
Okay. And
what's the name of your book?
The name of the book?
It's Stop Boring Me is the name of the book.
Oh.
And they
can get humor. Come on.
Yeah, it is the name of the book. You can get it on Amazon, and it's all about using improv and comedy tools to expand ideas, to expand product ideas, marketing ideas, content, stories, and productivity. Because really what it is it's a way of changing how you think about it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
It is my pleasure.
We now have a newsletter. Don't miss an episode. Get show highlights, beyond the show insights, and reminders of upcoming episodes. You can scan the QR code on screen or visit us at digitaldownload.live and click on newsletter. On behalf of our panelists, to our guest Kathy, to our audience, thank you all for being a part of the Digital Download today, and we will see you next time.